Hello, welcome to the webinars for the Professional Development course for adult educators of the TALES2SHARE project. This webinar will focus on supporting mental health and psychosocial well-being. My name is Velina, and today we will discuss some key mental health challenges and impact of the social and emotional factors, and also practical strategies to create a supportive and inclusive learning environment. As we work with elderly learners, particularly those from vulnerable and migrant backgrounds, understanding their psychological needs becomes essential. This session will equip you with the knowledge and tools to address these challenges and enhance the well-being in education and in community settings. The module is designed to provide adult educators with strategies to support the mental health and well-being of elderly learners. Our main goals are to understand, first, the common mental health challenges faced by elderly women, including anxiety, depression, social isolation, and etc. Then to explore the impact of social and emotional factors on the mental health and well-being of the elderly women, and then to learn to create safe, inclusive spaces that promote positive mental health. Ultimately, this module is addressing how to recognize signs of mental distress and how to respond effectively. Through these strategies, we aim to empower adult educators to make more meaningful difference in the lives of elderly women, and especially those from migrant background. We're going to start with the understanding of mental health and well-being. Mental health, it's not just about the absence of mental illness, maybe you know already that, but it also captures emotional, psychological, and social well-being inside of it. It affects basically how people think, how feel, how interact with others, shaping their ability to handle life challenges and function in the way that they want to function. For elderly individuals, maintaining mental health is particularly important as they navigate transitions such as retirement, which is one of the biggest challenges in terms of transitions in late adulthood. They often experience loss of loved ones, and often the physical health changes accompany their lives, so they must adapt and build resilience, which also requires a lot of mental resources. Social and emotional support in these transitions, in these ultimate challenges, play a critical role, ensuring their overall quality of life. And if we have good quality of life, we have also a longer lifespan and longer lives. But let's start again with the basics. What is mental health? Mental health includes some key components. First, it's the emotional well-being. This means the ability to manage our emotions, like something known as emotional intelligence as well. And also not only managing our emotions, but cope with stress in an effective manner. Then we have psychological well-being. This means we have sense of purpose, we have fulfillment, we have enough capacity to be resilient in front of challenges. We have also the social component and social well-being. This means to have meaningful connections and active and fulfilling participation in the community. As adult educators, we can play a significant role in strengthening these aspects by fostering inclusive, supportive environments where elderly women can feel valued and connected. In general, elderly individuals, and especially women, often face significant mental health challenges. With age, depression often becomes not so recognized. In the population, many elderly people face depression, but they do not recognize it as part of their mental well-being. However, they think that it's a natural or consequential normative part of life, which is not. I mean, depression, it's not normative. Depression can come from very, very big variety of factors, including our personal vulnerability to mood disorders, or it can be a result of loneliness, loss of loved ones, or one of the major factors is actually health issues that we may have, and this can contribute to the development of depression at a later age. Then we have anxiety. All the anxiety disorders can be part of our late adulthood, often caused by external stressors, but also internal vulnerability. And the external stressors here include the uncertainty, the financial stress, or just simple fear of the future. Again, I need to mention that there is also internal vulnerability as genetic component and as the way that the environment shaped our lives and our experiences. And another key aspect is the social isolation. This often results from the reduced mobility, also from fewer social interactions, or in the case that we're actually focusing is the cultural displacement. Here we need to know that at later age, people generally prefer quality of their interactions over quantity. That means that even that their social circle can be very small, they still can have very meaningful connections which contribute to the overall well-being of the individuals. And to that picture, migrants face additional stressors. The main one here is the language barriers, discrimination, the whole adaptation process to a new culture. All of these stressors can intensify feelings of isolation and, of course, anxiety. Recognizing these challenges help us provide better support and create environments that nurture, support the well-being of the elderly women and elderly population in general. Briefly go to some risk and protective factors here. Mental health can be also influenced by risk factors and protective factors. Risk factors, as I mentioned, are the social isolation, loneliness, chronic health conditions, and limited access to healthcare and support system. Very essential is to have a support system. And additionally, for migrant women and for migrant elderly population, we have the discrimination and the cultural barriers. So this influences and it's a risk factor for their mental well-being. And then we have the protective factors that are positively contributing to their mental well-being. One of which is the supportive community programs. This project aims to create such opportunities for social engagement, again, storytelling. The need for self-expression is quite strong at the later age. Access to mental health and social services is also a very big protective factor. So by fostering those factors, by strengthening those factors, we can also strengthen the mental resilience and well-being among the elderly learners. They can be encouraged to participate in the communities, to express themselves, to form meaningful connections, which it might be hard given the language barriers and cultural barriers, but still it's very essential, very key and crucial point of building up more holistic strategy for well-being and empowerment. So why mental health matters in community education? Adult education has tremendous role in promoting well-being. The educators actually can create safe spaces where elderly women feel heard, feel the respect, feel valued. The educators also can encourage the self-expression through storytelling, through creative workshops, through group discussions. And as I mentioned in other webinars, it's easier to start with group discussion, to spark a conversation, to spark an interaction, and then to move to more personal ways of expression, such as storytelling, and such as showcasing our creativity and our own personal narrative that influenced our experience in life. Then the educators actually can facilitate the community involvement so they can reduce the social isolation. If we don't have some form of structured interaction with some kind of purpose, it's very hard to trigger, to inspire, or to attract and basically lure elderly people to be part of something bigger, as they face many barriers inner and external, here we speak for diverse set of barriers, to go and join with that or hear some community events or some community programs and etc. So for migrant elderly women, one of the things is when we celebrate cultural heritage while building bridges to new communities, it's very, very vital. Basically, while we acknowledge the culture that they bring with them, we also need to open new roads to connect that culture with their current life, with their current reality, with the culture that they're placed now in. We can also help them integrate in this way while maintaining their identity and their own traditions, which are part of their own self-concept and their own self-understanding. They are integral part of that. Now we're gonna focus more on some strategies, how we can actually do that as educators and how actively we can support mental health in our learning environments. What we're going to focus on is creating a supportive environment, encouraging social connections, implementing practical activities for well-being, and again, key component is recognizing and responding to signs of distress. We hope this strategy help you build more emotionally resilient and inclusive learning spaces for elderly women. So, creating a supportive environment. The first step in promoting well-being is ensuring that elderly learners feel respected, valued, and safe. This can be translated into establishing inclusive spaces. In order to do that, we need to actively encourage participation and validate all perspectives. Some of the cultural perspectives might be quite different from our own. That's why we need to be very aware of our own biases, but we need to validate that each and every experience, the way it is experienced and felt, matters, and it's a valuable source of information, valuable source of building our view of life in general. Then another component of creating supporting environment is to reduce the stigma. We need to be able to normalize in a discussion setting the concept of mental health, the concept of well-being. For older generations, this changes depending on the generation, of course, but for the current elder population, mental health still remains a stigma. Having mental health issues, most of them, it's still connected with some kind of weakness. If they have some kind of a problem, they see it as a weakness, they don't address it adequately, ultimately they don't treat it. So this stigma that mental health translates into a weakness, and it's not a weakness, like it's just the way it is, can be normalized in a discussion setting, which of course requires some level of vulnerability that we need to demonstrate ourselves, to speak openly about it, and then expect them to speak openly about it. Another aspect is to promote trust and sense of belonging, especially for migrant participants. Creating a culturally inclusive environment is essential for interaction and comfort. The sense of belonging can be fostered via different ways, but first we need to make sure that we have built a group with a common purpose, so all participants in our educational setting know why they're there, what they want to learn, what they want to take away from these sessions. So they have some kind of shared vision over those sessions. This is the sense of belonging, that they are doing something together as a group. And the best is, as I said, this something to be towards a common goal. So even some kind of small voluntary actions, voluntary activities in general can be very helpful to build this kind of sense of belongingness. Just an example, cleaning something like a public space together or something like that, even just a little bit, can make them feel that they work together for a common goal. And promoting trust, I think you as adult educators know already quite a lot about it. However, I need to mention that trust starts first when we trust our learners, our participants. We hope that they trust us back, and it's a connection that goes both ways. So we cannot expect to be trusted if we don't trust the other side. And a supportive environment can actually foster confidence and foster engagement. This can help elderly women build social connections and ultimately can lead to resilience. Loneliness is one of the biggest threats to elderly mental health, as I mentioned, and thus educators can encourage social bonds, again, first by organizing group activities. Of course, I prefer some type of voluntary charity work. Personally, I prefer that. However, What also works is having book clubs, storytelling sessions on given topics, or creative workshops, somewhere where they can learn and also where they can express themselves. Because it's not like high school students. They need to feel that their participation gives something to the others as well, not that they just take from the learning sessions or the community activity. Another thing is to encourage intergenerational exchange. This means to bringing different age groups together and help them, support them, learn from each other. And we can also, again, foster a sense of community. Again, local initiatives, in my personal view, work best. Volunteering programs and anything that is valued by the community and it's for the good of community. When elderly learners feel socially connected, their mental health improves significantly because they have a sense of purpose. They have a sense of belongingness, so they belong to a group, and they feel that they bring something and give something. And this generativity is a key to the adult well-being, like especially for the seniors. We can now talk a little bit more about the practical activities for well-being. We as adult educators can introduce very simple yet powerful activities to support the emotional well-being. Mindfulness and relaxation techniques, just the basics, but it almost always works. This could include breathing exercises, guided visualizations, gentle movement exercises. It's always good to lay the ground with such techniques, and I'm a big fan of those. Then another thing that we can do is to have gratitude practices. Very good strategy when we're dealing with migrant women and hosting communities, because often this is seen as one way direction, that hosting communities gives something to migrant women and they should be grateful, and of course most of them are, and this is the semi-healthy dynamic here. However, we also need to make this bi-directional, meaning the hosting communities being grateful for having migrant women and to reflect for what they're grateful, because there are many things migrant women bring in the communities that are very, very valuable, and we need to practice this gratitude to recognize the migrant population actually contributes to the hosting population. And this can happen when we ask them to reflect on positive experiences and to share moments of joy. Joy always works. We can also have active listening and empathy exercises, which promote open dialogue, peer support. Like every time when we ask for such empathy sessions and exercises, there are so many beautiful results coming out, and people are able to connect on a deeper level. In general, those activities reduce stress and promote the emotional resilience aspect. And what I mentioned as last point is the ways to recognize distress, signs of distress in elderly women from migrant background. Here, what we can use is some key indicators. First, when we see withdrawal from social interactions, that could be a sign. If we see a very big variations in mood changes, especially in elderly people, depression. Also, this is also valid for adolescents, but depression expresses itself not just in low mood, consistent low mood, but irritability. However, this could be also sign of some of the neurodegenerative disorders. But when we see these mood swings or excessive irritability, this is a sign of distress. In general, the loss of interest that they previously enjoyed is also a sign. And for migrant participants, they also might express distress differently due to cultural differences and the way that they are used to expressing their emotions. Thus, we as educators should be sensitive to nonverbal cues and personal behaviors that indicate in some level emotional challenges. And while Most adult educators are not therapists, still they can offer guidance. Some of the key things that they can do is just listen without any judgment, without taking any side and so on. Just validate the emotions of the person who is sharing. Adult educators also can encourage open discussions about well-being in a safe space, so they can provide more mental health education, so they can trigger some interest for the participants and they can explore more or seek professional help. Like any type of mental health resources to be shared during those sessions, it could be helpful, including helplines and community centers. Then basically having such network of referral options ensure that those in need can receive professional help when necessary. So our role is more to guide them and to show them that there are options for them to feel better and to receive support. Sometimes it would be better not to speak about help, but as support. Again, we need to be very sensitive about the language we use here, so we don't contribute to the stigmas that are often associated with mental health. And simply to summarize, supporting mental health and psychological well-being in elderly women demands a holistic approach by fostering inclusive environments, promoting social connections, integrating well-being activities, and recognizing distress signals. We can create lasting impact, help them have good quality of life, and actually add years to their lives. Thank you for listening. You can find all webinars on the online platform of TALES2SHARE project, and our team really hopes you enjoy them.